Welcome to the Fit Dad Nation podcast, forging strong fathers and raising a stronger generation. It's time to get up or shut up with your host, Steve Roy.
Hey guys, this is Steve Roy, the host of the Fit Dad Nation podcast. Welcome to the show. Thanks for listening. So before I jump into today's show, just want to take a quick moment to invite all you dads who are listening right now. If you're ready to start taking action on reclaiming your health and fitness, it's ultimately going to help you become a better father and a better man. And we have a really great and supportive online community on Facebook. And you can find our group. It's a free private group. It can be found at fitdadnation.com/community. So today I wanted to talk about something that kind of has two schools of thoughts. And I want to just clear up a couple of things. And it's all about calorie counting. So I've been a trainer and coach for 22 years now, and I've heard all the pros, all the cons of counting calories. Does it work? Does it not work? So I just want to share my thoughts on this because I still get quite a few questions about this. And so I'm just going to break down, in my experience, I'm going to break down the pros, why it can work, and then the cons of why it may not work. So hopefully this answers some of your questions. So, first off, calorie counting works in a sense that if you're able to track your foods properly and consistently, it's going to help you understand what you're putting in your body. So I've spent many years, I don't anymore. I don't count calories anymore just because I've been training, exercising since I was in my early 20s, and I spent many years being very fit, very lean, 6% body fat, and I counted my calories. I weighed out my food. I portioned out everything, and it was a pain in the ass. But I did it because I wanted to really get into phenomenal shape. And so over the years, I've learned, for the most part, what's in the foods I eat. How many calories, how much protein, carbs, fat, all those things. So I have a pretty good understanding, but most of you listening do not. So, I want to make it clear that there's no magic formula for how many calories you should eat. There's no formula for how many grams of protein or carbohydrates or fats that you should eat. There's no blanket answer for all of this. And one of the most frustrating things for me is all the conflicting and bullshit advice, and experts are being paid to say certain things and promote certain programs. And a lot of it is driven just by revenue and marketing. It's not actual science that's going to help us. And it's extremely frustrating for me. I get very annoyed at some of these things that I'm reading, and it's rampant on social media. And every time I go to the bookstore, there's 20 new diet books talking about every possible way to eat and why. And so I just want to kind of make this simple. What I do at the Fit Dad Nation, I try to keep things simple. I'm not trying to overwhelm anybody or confuse anybody. It's already confusing enough, and a lot of you are already overwhelmed at all of the different advice. Seems like every doctor or fitness pro or anybody, a nutritionist, they all have different ideas, different approaches, and some work, some don't. So in a nutshell, your body needs a certain amount of calories to maintain your current weight and your current body fat. Okay, so we get what's called like a fat point or a set point where your body becomes comfortable, all your systems, your processes become comfortable at a certain weight and a certain body fat. And so, for me, I've found my mark somewhere around the 185 pound mark. And so when I lose weight, if I'm leaning out for any particular reason, like summer or whatever, my body wants to go back, at least for a while, to that 185. So I need a certain amount of calories to maintain that. Now, if I want to lose fat, and let me be very clear here, nobody wants to lose weight. We all want to lose fat. Now, all of these fancy diet programs that are being sold, the big names, the Nutrisystems and the Weight Watchers, they promote weight loss. And weight loss, to me, is a terrible way to go about it, because when you lose weight, you're losing some fat, you're losing some muscle, and you're losing some water. And the reason a lot of these programs can promote all of these fantastic and phenomenal success stories is because people are going to lose weight. And what they don't tell you is, if someone's lost 50 pounds and half of it has come from lean muscle tissue, that's a huge problem. The scale looks great, sure, but you've essentially really slowed down their metabolism because you've stripped away the number one best fat burner that you can have by far. There's no supplement that even comes close, and that's lean muscle tissue. So, when people say, these weight loss stories, it's just absolute bullshit to me, because you have to focus on body fat loss. That's what we want to do. Okay. And we'll get into that in just a little bit. So I'm going to go into a couple of reasons why we want a calorie count. So if your goal is fat loss, and let's be honest, 95% of the people listening to this are interested in getting leaner, losing body fat. It doesn't make sense to count your calories unless you know how many calories you actually need, right? So if you have no idea how many calories you need to maintain or to lose weight or to gain weight, then it makes no sense to count them, right? So there's a couple of methods that we use. I'm going to actually get into that in a little bit, but I want to talk about a few things. And calorie counting does get beaten down a lot. There's a lot of reputable brands out there and companies that bash it, and I'm not jumping on board, and I'm not beating it up either. There are merits to both sides, so I'm just going to kind of explain a little bit about both. So when you start counting your calories, you start tracking your calories, and you can use something like MyFitnessPal, something pretty simple. Even a spreadsheet works pretty well. I use a spreadsheet for years, and it works just fine. You're going to get a better understanding of the foods that you're eating and what's in them. So that's huge, because a lot of people have no idea what they're eating. I don't even know how many people I've spoken to over the years, and I'm talking about adults, 30-year-old, 40-year-old adults that don't know a banana is carbohydrate. They just have no idea. Just some people are just clueless. They don't ever think about it. It's like, talking to somebody about the stock market that doesn't understand the stock market. They just don't understand like how a bond works, or how a stock works, or how a mutual fund works, or what it is, right? They're just ignorant. So this is going to help you understand what's in your food. Oh, I didn't realize that, there's, 20 grams of carbohydrates in the average apple, or I didn't realize there was 30 grams of protein in a chicken breast. So you get to learn about those things, and once you start understanding more, you can make better decisions, more educated decisions, and you're not necessarily at the whim of all of these really proficient marketing companies that are selling us bullshit programs and diets, because you understand, you know what you're talking about, and you understand that it's bullshit. A lot of this stuff is just straight garbage. So that's the big one right there. That's actually huge right there. And so when you start tracking as well, you're going to be accountable. So if you know you're going to be tracking your foods and you commit to it, and a lot of people like on MyFitnessPal will have friends where they can, share, and they can see each other's daily food logs. That's huge. Accountability is huge. I do everything now in groups because the power of accountability is so much stronger than just me and a client. And it's especially for dads that, we're busy, right? We've got busy jobs, busy lives, come home, and, we spend some time with the family and take the dog out and have dinner and maybe, sit on the couch a little bit. And so we don't have that group of accountability partners that is vital. And so I've seen a tremendous spike in success when I started doing things in groups versus a one-on-one setting. So that's huge. The accountability piece is enormous. And plus, you'll tend, not always, but people tend to eat fewer shitty foods if you know you have to log them, especially if you have to show a coach. So I have a few clients right now that are tracking every day, and they know I'm going to look at it every day or two. And so they're less likely to have that donut or whatever it is because I'm going to see it. And they know that they probably shouldn't eat it. So those are a couple of big things. So, at the end of the day, really, your weight loss your fat loss is going to come down to calories in versus calories out. So if you're eating even one too many calories that your body requires, you cannot lose weight or lose fat. You have to be in a deficit. And the only way to know you're in a deficit is to figure out what you need and then eat less. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that in a second. But I want to talk a little bit about the downside as well. So the big one is it sucks. It sucks to count calories. It's boring. It's tedious. It's a pain in the ass, right? You got to scan your foods, or you're constantly looking up foods, or you're logging them in, or I can't find this food. I mean, I've tried it for years, and I don't enjoy it. I don't know really anybody that really likes tracking every single thing they put in their body, but it's one way to really understand what's going in. So people tend to avoid it because it's difficult, right? So they take shortcuts, they forget, they give up quickly, and then you're kind of back where you started. So a couple things to note as well. People, in my experience, and I've read about this as well, but in my experience, people really seriously underestimate the amount of calories that they're eating. So, I've had clients that we figured out how many calories they need to lose weight. They're not losing weight, weeks and weeks and weeks. Oh, I'm only eating, 1,400 calories, just like you said, or 1,600 calories, or whatever it is. And I'm like, well, no, you're not. Because if you were, you'd see some changes. You'd see some scale weight leaving you, but you're eating too much, right? You're not tracking properly, or you're eating, a larger portion size than you're recording. You're forgetting things, and that's a huge one. Very few people are going to track their foods as soon as they eat them, right? You eat it, track it, right? Probably not. So a lot of people will end up waiting to the end of the day, and then have to remember, oh man, I forgot. What did I have for breakfast again? I mean, me personally, I can't remember what I had to eat yesterday at all. I mean, I just move on with my day, and I don't remember. And that happens to a lot of people. So you're going to forget things, and oh, look, I still have 800 calories, and it's the end of the night. Let me go ahead and get a bowl of pasta here, or some cornflakes to get all of my calories in. And then next thing they know, they're in a calorie surplus, and they're not losing weight because they're eating too many calories. Okay, so that's important to understand. And one thing that is nuts to me, and if you do a little bit of research, and I've read some things about this as well, is the calories on a package of food aren't necessarily accurate. So I've read that food companies can use up to 5 different methods to estimate calories, and that the FDA actually allows up to 20% inaccuracies across food labels. So we're not really, right there, we're in a range of 20% over or under. Now, once that is understood, then you have the inaccuracies of actually tracking your foods properly, which, chances are you're going to be unlikely to track exactly what you're eating, because it's very challenging to do that. And once we cook foods, we tend to absorb more calories. So you're looking at a calorie count that's pre-cooked. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't count calories because of that, but you have to understand that, given all the processes in the body, given all the chances for you to make human error, given the nutritional labels being potentially wrong, I mean, those calorie counts that you're putting into your MyFitnessPal, we're talking, 30, we could be 25, 30% or more even off, and do that for 3 or 4 or 5 meals week after week. You could be under eating, you could be overeating. So it's not an exact science, and it doesn't have to be. That's the thing. So this doesn't have to be an exact science. I mean, it's actually not. I mean, there are some formulas that use a lot of personal data, like take into account your height, weight, your activity level, your body fat, and you get, I guess a relatively accurate number, but it's still a ballpark. So you have to be in a range. So if your number says 1,800 to lose fat, somewhere between 1,700 and 1,900 is probably a fine place to be. So don't obsess about it. And so a couple things I want to talk about as far as figuring out how many calories you need. Because if you're going to track calories, like I said in the beginning of the show, you have to know how many calories you need to maintain and then adjust accordingly. So you absolutely have to be in a calorie deficit if you're going to lose fat or lose weight. You're not going to be able to do it. It's just the law of energy. You have to have fewer calories than you need. So first method is kind of an estimate, and it's a ballpark, and it works just fine. So this says if you're trying to lose fat, eat 10 to 12 calories per pound of body weight. That's for fat loss. If you want to maintain, it's 14 to 16 calories per pound of body weight. I've used this a little bit, and it's fine. Not my favorite method. I actually like to be a little more diligent with my numbers and my calculations because of all the inaccuracies on every other front. So I use something called a Harris-Benedict formula. This has been around forever. I've been using this for 20 years. I actually started using it when I bought this diet book called Burn the Fat, Feed the Muscle, which was an ebook way back written by Tom Venuto, who actually I had on the show a while back. Nutrition expert, fat loss expert, best-selling author. I think I read that Burn the Fat, Feed the Muscle was the best-selling diet ebook of all time, I believe. Anyway, it was my go-to resource for many, many, many years, and that's where I learned how to use the Harris-Benedict formula. There's a bunch of calculators online. If you just Google it, Harris-Benedict calculator, you'll come up with it, and that'll tell you to enter your age, your weight, your height, your activity level. It'll give you a number, and then you multiply it by multiply it by your activity level, and then you take that number and then you manipulate that to either gain weight or lose weight. So that's I've had a lot of success with that formula personally. And then another method is using portion sizes, which it can work, right? So if you're pretty good at guesstimating, it can certainly work, and it's way easier than counting calories. The problem is people don't know shit about portion sizes. They don't understand what a portion is. They overeat. And so, unless you really know what you're doing, you're going to have, some success, but, you probably struggle a bit. So here's kind of a general rule of thumb. Every meal, have 2 palmfuls of protein, 2 fistfuls of vegetables, 2 handfuls of complex carbohydrates like a grain and again, I'm not jumping on any particular diet wagon either right now. I have my own personal thoughts on what works really well, but I'm not against complex carbohydrates, quinoa, brown rice, sweet potatoes, that kind of stuff. And then 2 thumbfuls of fat. So that's kind of a general guideline. You can use that, and you can just manipulate that as you see fit. The last method is to do what most people are doing now, which is guessing. Well, I think this, has this many calories. I think this is probably enough food. But you have to ask yourself, how is that working for you? Chances are probably not so great. So sure, you can get lucky. You can guess correctly. You can get close. Like I said, it's not an exact science. If you figure it out and it works for you, go with it. If what you're doing is working for you, meaning it's healthy, you're getting enough nutrients, vitamins, minerals, protein, all the things that you need, and you're hitting your goals, which whether that's losing fat or gaining muscle and getting heavier. If it's working for you, stick with it. I don't care what you do. I don't care if you do Weight Watchers, which I personally don't like. But whatever it is, I don't care if it's a Mediterranean diet, if it's a zone diet, if it's a blood type diet, if it's alkaline diet, all of which I don't personally believe in. But if it works for you, doesn't matter what I think. It works for you. Stick with it. So a good place to start too when you're looking to lose fat is about 15, 20 to 25% is a good deficit. So once you figure out your number, whatever it is, let's call it 2,000 calories a day to maintain, you're going to cut that number, not by a static number like 500 numbers. 500 calories, you probably have seen that before. Just cut whatever your goal is by 500, and that's your number. A more accurate way to do this is to use just a moderate deficit, 15 to 25%, somewhere in there. I've had a lot of success using that. And I want to talk about something that's a little bit off topic, but counting points. There's a few programs that use point systems. The main one being Weight Watchers. I have some friends that are doing it. I have a real problem with Weight Watchers because, there's actually a lot of reasons. This is not the place to bash Weight Watchers, although I would love to. I just not in this show anyway. But they have something called free foods, 0-point foods. So when you sign up for Weight Watchers, you give them your stats and they give you a number of points to eat every day. Okay, you have 24 points to eat. So first off, typically what I've seen, and I've looked at this quite a bit in different people's daily diets on Weight Watchers, they're super low calorie. And so, of course, this is going to work. And I mentioned this in the beginning of the show. Of course, you're going to lose weight. If you're a 200-pound guy and they give you 26 points or 28 points, and you're eating 1,300 calories or 1,400 calories, that is way, way low. Most people think, oh, I can't eat that much. I can't eat 2,000 calories and still lose weight. Yes, you can. It's just the numbers. The numbers make sense. But when you go into a severe deficit, not only does it make it extremely difficult to stick with, it's too low. So you're going to see. Wait, the scale will move, right? If you cut your portions in size in half, if you cut your calories in half, of course you're going to lose weight. But like I said, we do not want to lose weight. We want to lose body fat. And that comes from a moderate deficit. That comes from progressively strength training your muscles, which is breaking them down, rebuilding them stronger. So making sure you have enough calories and enough protein for sure. And you're doing some form of cardiovascular exercise, conditioning work, whatever it is to help with the burning fat process. You get all those things working together. Of course, there are more things like your hormones and sleep and stress management. There's a lot of things that play into how much fat you're going to lose. But so many of these programs, and I'm talking about Weight Watchers, can claim that they have all these wonderful results because people are dropping tons of weight. And yes, they are. The problem is most of those people, the vast majority, well into the 90s, gain their weight back because once they kick that 1,200 calorie diet, not only have they stripped away a bunch of muscle, now their metabolism is slower and it's harder for them to burn calories, they're going to start eating their maintenance levels again, and guess what happens? All that weight comes back. And now they're confused as to why, their body fat went from 30% to 34%, and they do, it's really a frustrating thing for me even to talk about this because I feel like it should be common knowledge now, but it's not. And it's like beating my head against the wall trying to explain this over and over again, and people still, friends, people that I'm close with, they're still going to do these crazy, diets that are going to cut calories way down or eliminate all carbohydrates. And it's not sustainable. And if you're looking for a short-term win, sure, take it, right? If that's all you want, but who wants a short-term win? I don't know anybody that doesn't want long-term health and fitness. I don't know anyone that doesn't want to keep off their weight and look good and feel good for the rest of our life, right? But we're being sold short-term wins, and it's just not right. So anyway, back to the 0 points, and we're still talking about Weight Watchers. There's over 200 foods on their list that are 0 points. Now, if you've understood what I've said so far, you know that it's simply a matter of calories in versus calories out. So even if you're getting very few points, which equate to very few calories, which most of them are, if you load up on 0 point foods, and we're talking, this isn't like watercress and celery, which has nothing in it. We're talking about eggs, chicken breasts, fish, apples, broccoli. I mean, there's a lot, bananas, there's a ton of foods that have plenty of calories. And so, to me, when I see this, it makes no sense. Zero. I mean, I honestly don't know how they can promote this, because if you're given 26 points and you eat 26 points and then you decide to have 2 bananas, 2 apples, a couple of eggs, and some chicken on top of that, what are the chances you're still going to be in a deficit? None, right? Not going to be. And you can't lose weight without a deficit. So, I don't have the answer to this because, they're doing extremely well. They've got it figured out. It's very good marketing, but it's messed up to me. It's just completely messed up. So anyway, that's my little rant there. But anyway, so back to calorie counting. Does it work? Yes. Do you have to do it? No. But I seriously would recommend anybody that's struggling with understanding their foods, understanding calories, understanding the macronutrients, and struggling to lose weight, I would seriously try it for a month. Okay, it's not going to be an amazing time for you to track all that stuff, but I promise you come away with a much better understanding, and you may end up enjoying the process and learning a thing or three, and it helps you going forward. So use MyFitnessPal. There's actually a bunch of apps, or just a spreadsheet. Something as simple as a spreadsheet. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys today. Hopefully this has been helpful, and I'll look for questions, and I'm happy to do a follow-up post and follow-up show in the future. Thanks for listening, guys.
Thanks for joining us. And remember, if you want more information, check out the Fit Dad Basecamp group on Facebook. And don't forget to stop by fitdadnation.com. Until next time, keep kicking ass and taking the next step. You can do this, Dad.